Welcome to Top 10 Tuesday, and not only is it a Tuesday, it happens to be the 2-year anniversary of my channel, and for that I wanted to do something a little special. These are the top 10 movies to come out in my lifetime. The 90s, 2000s, and this present decade haven't been nearly as good for quality entertainment as the decades that preceded them, but they aren't without merit. And here I hope to highlight some of the best movies to come out in the last quarter decade, so here are the top 10 movies from 1993 to 2018. Number 10. Avengers Infinity War. This is the most recent movie on the list, and it might be a little premature, but the more I think about it, the more I love this film, and I think it should be way higher. It is nothing short of amazing how every single character and plot point got juggled around with a confident grace. Thanos is the main focus of the movie, and he gets the most screen time. The characters who most closely parallel him are the ones who get the next most screen time, like Iron Man, Thor, Gamora, and Vision. There's 3 general plot tracks, and each of them are stylized in a different way to keep the audience from getting lost. It really kicked everything up a notch, and it's probably my favorite Marvel movie ever. Number 9. A Beautiful Mind. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, but I remember seeing it several times as a kid and teenager, and there's just so much that still sticks with me. This movie is based on the true story of John Nash, a famous mathematician who also suffered from schizophrenia. Russell Crowe gives the most incredible performance of his lifetime and one of the best performances I've ever seen. It was also my first exposure to Ron Howard as a director, and he did a fantastic job. It's probably not for everyone, and it is a little Oscar baity, but trust me, this is one of the good Oscar winners. Number 8. Inception. Never has there been a more involved puzzle box of a movie. Inception means planting an idea in someone's head, yet this movie has so many layers that the film's title has become synonymous with layers. This really is a film analyst's wet dream, one where subtext, metatext, and symbolism just become straightforward text. And the true genius of this movie is that it disguises these layers with a deceptively simple heist format. Take away the pretense and philosophy and layers, and you're still left with a competent action film, and that is the formula for a timeless movie. This is probably the best piece of evidence I can point to when I say that there is still some creative ground to till in Hollywood. Number 7. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? This movie is simply hilarious. Comedies are really hard to give opinions on because it always boils down to that's funny or that's not funny. And this movie gives character-centric punchlines every single minute. If you haven't seen it yet, it's basically a parody of The Odyssey with the Depression-era Southern setting, but what really puts it over the top is the excellent bluegrass music. Number 6. Forrest Gump. Now, this is just me being sentimental and nostalgic. I realize this movie is a little goofier perhaps than it tried being, and its goofiness is totally at odds with the rest of the film. But I think it's kind of brilliant how it balances the humor and the heartfelt. This is an American story about 2 people experiencing the rapid changes in America that were happening in the latter half of the 20th century from very different sides of the track. It doesn't have anything definitively to say, but that's what happens in life sometimes. It allows you to think and reflect on their journey and your own journey and come to your own conclusions. And the fact the biggest criticism I've heard mainstream journalists levy at this film is that it doesn't indoctrinate the audience into a particular ideology is everything I need to know about the present state of Hollywood criticism. Number 5. Fight Club. What can be said about Fight Club that hasn't been said before? This movie is the raw, visceral lashing out of Generation X turned into a pulpy, pulse-pounding psychodrama, and I love every minute of it. This and The Matrix, which came out the very same year, struck that same nerve that every adult in that time period was feeling but too afraid to say. And to all of those who cry out that the film promotes fascism, did we watch the same film? Tyler Durden, Brad Pitt's character, the one who spouts off all the hate speech and toxic masculine diatribes, is the villain! He is exactly what all the little devils on our shoulders want us to be, and to go any further would be risking giving away one of the truly greatest twists in film history. Number 4. Memento. This hit a lot of the same psychological beats for me that Fight Club did. It also happens to be a little more gimmicky. This was Chris Nolan's first film, and it was edited with the scenes in reverse order. That way we're always in the character's perspective. We know what he's trying to accomplish, but not how he got there. Much like his later work in Inception, it's a puzzle box, and one that is much shorter and tighter than his other films. Number 3. Lord of the Rings. I'm kinda cheating here, reason being none of the Lord of the Rings movies really work on their own. The first one fares the best, but it's also lacking the technical polish of its follow-ups. The second and third one are much more groundbreaking, but require viewing Fellowship of the Ring first. Luckily, altogether, this trilogy makes for one of the most all-encompassing, powerful, passionate, groundbreaking cinematic experiences you can ever feast your eyes on. Number 2. The Dark Knight. I know a lot of people who probably thought this would be number 1. This is one of the most riveting movies I've ever seen, and it's elevated the superhero genre to new heights. It's so good and universally beloved, I feel more a need to criticize it to explain why it isn't number 1. In short, it's very much of its time. It's an adaptation of Batman that could only work within the context of the late 2000s. But what keeps it from being a dated relic is how airtight the script is. Not quite as tight as Memento or even the ever-excellent Prestige, but it is tight enough and big enough to show exactly why Chris Nolan movies make up a third of this list. Coupled with fantastic performances all around, best live-action Joker ever, and some truly slick cinematography and stunt work, and you have one of the finest crime drama films of the last half-century that only just so happens to feature Batman as its main protagonist. And before I get to number 1, here's some honorable mentions. Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away, the best movie Japan has made. Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, my favorite Quentin Tarantino film. The Prestige, I already kind of talked about this when I talked about The Dark Knight. Pulp Fiction, another excellent Tarantino film. Hugo, it's kind of amazing how Martin Scorsese was able to make one of his finest movies yet by being such a departure from his usual style. Phoebe in Wonderland. I really like this movie. I know it's got its problems, but I already did a video of it a few months ago. Nightmare Before Christmas. Does it actually matter when you watch this movie? It's good any time of the year. Song of the Sea. Most beautiful 2D animation you will ever watch. There Will Be Blood. Kinda speaks for itself. It's just really great. And Jurassic Park. Best movie to come out the year I was born. And now, number 1. Toy Story. Anyone who really knows me knows that not only is Toy Story my favorite animated film of all time, but it's one of the few features I hold in the same tier as Star Wars, Godfather, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. The story, acting, and music would all work just as well in live action, but it elevates itself through its groundbreaking CGI work. And just as this was a story about the old-fashioned western of the 60s and 70s a la High Plains Drifter and Fistful of Dollars, falling out of fashion in favor of space movies like Star Wars and E.T., so too was it a precursor to the 3D animation golden age that would all but replace traditional 2D animation. It's not dated, it was ahead of its time, and it's one of the first movies I ever remember seeing. So that's it for my list. What are your favorite movies from the last 25 years, and what are your favorite movies from your lifetime? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Mediocrity4. Thanks for watching.